I'm Dr. Lana Denny, and I have a great presentation for you today. It's very content rich and full of lots of good information. So you can get the most out of this. It's not just a monologue. Please interact with me. Feel free to ask questions if you have a statement to make, and you'll retain much more of the presentation. So today's presentation is Healthy Secrets, Toxic Lies, How to Age Better and Live Longer. So I want to ask you this question. How many of you think that you age the way you age and you really have no control over it? Anybody think that? Good, because you're a well-educated bunch. I'd worry about you if you thought that, right? Because we can control the way we age greatly. And I'll give you a prime example. You know, Jack LaLanne just died 3 weeks ago, and he was a fitness hero. You know, he opened the first gym in the United States in Oakland, California in 1936. He's a Bay Area native. And he worked right up until the day he died, 96 years old, trying to improve people's health so they could have better lives. I had the pleasure of meeting him 2 years ago in LA at a sports chiropractic conference. He was a keynote speaker, and he was still full of fire at 94 years old. So let me share some of his secrets with you. 3 factors that greatly influence the way we age, and that is your weight, how much you exercise, and of course I'm going to say chiropractic care because it maintains the mobility of your joints and how well you're going to move later on. So let's start with the first one, weight. That's my eye candy slide. Enjoy it now. We can all look like that without our shirts on. The more weight you're carrying, the more mechanical load it is on your joints, and in particularly the joints that are your hips, your knees, and your ankles and feet, because they have to bear all that weight. And when I say a lot of weight, it's even just 20 pounds. I mean, next time you're in Safeway, pick up a 20-pound bag of cat litter and walk around with it a little bit right here, or try to sit down and get up with it. And you'll realize how much 20 pounds is. And I recommend you do this at the Church and Market Safeway because nobody will bat an eye at you. So 68% of Americans are obese, and by 2040, it'll be 100%. That's from the National Institute of Health. Okay, that's a pretty scary statistic. Okay, unless we change the way we eat, that's what's down the road for us. So, are we all just gluttonous? No, we're not. Okay, but our food has changed. It has rapidly changed. It's changed even from our grandparents' generation. And so, what I'm going to share with you today are what are some of the food additives that add to weight gain that you don't need in your food, and you can eliminate this. Okay, and not just in the perspective of weight gain, but also in the perspective of our mental chemistry. These things are also things that just add to malaise and you not feeling good and you not having an abundance of energy. Okay, so what do you think the number one thing? Anybody want to guess what the number one thing is? High fructose corn syrup.
What about that commercial they've been showing it?
Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up. Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought that up. Because that goes with this slide. I was just going to say, has somebody seen those commercials where they're laying on a blanket in the park, and she goes to hand him a popsicle, and he's like, "Oh, I don't want to eat that. It has high fructose corn syrup in it." And she says, "Yeah," and he goes, "I don't know. Okay," and he takes it. And oh, did you just bring one? Okay, those commercials, and there's a whole series of them, infuriate me because they are predicated upon people's ignorance over this issue. Okay, I am not their target audience for that commercial. Okay, I have a background in chemistry. So since you asked that question, I'm going to tell you very specifically what the difference is. Table sugar, high fructose corn syrup. Table sugar is a fructose-glucose mix that are chemically bound together. Okay, so those molecules are married together. The glucose is in a higher percentage than fructose. High fructose corn syrup, the fructose is in a higher percentage than the glucose. They are not chemically bound together. They're hanging out as 2 single molecules. The body processes this very differently, and it has a great predisposition, once it hits the liver, to store that as fat. So that's the difference. Let me just tell you just really quickly, this stuff has a very interesting history. You know, it was developed in Japan in the 70s, and they used very little of it there. It was exported to America. And the reason it's so popular in our country is because it extends the shelf life of food, and it's extremely cheap. 1 acre of corn will sweeten 80,000 cans of soda. All right, and when I say corn, don't think about the corn that's on your dinner table. Okay, it's not that type of corn. It's a type of corn called yellow dent number 2. It's an agricultural product used to feed livestock and to make alternative fuels from. High fructose corn syrup is completely synthetic. It does not have any natural components in it whatsoever. So I'm going to show you some slides of just common foods. And you tell me which one doesn't have high fructose corn syrup in it, okay? Vince?
I don't know, I think they all have it.
They do, they do. Oh man, I can't fool anybody here. Yes, they all have it in there. So my point is that you're consuming a bunch of unnecessary calories that you don't need. Not only that, because I told you it's synthetic, right? When you eat it, it bypasses our natural mechanism that says we're full. You know, when I went to chiropractic school, it was in Hayward, and I used to have to drive by Hayward High School every day. Everybody know that high school? They have a Burger King in the bottom of it. A Burger King. You know, and I'd see kids with these big things of sodas, and I'm like, no wonder kids are heavy these days. You know, I just read an article in the New York Times. It was actually last summer, and they talked about the turn of the century, like around 1910, around there. The average American had less than 5 pounds of sugar a year. Now we're up to 135 pounds of sugar a year per person. So what can we do about it? Oh, well, do we want to use products like this? Thank God, a voice of reason. Yeah, so these products are, you both hit it right. They're very bad for you. And I really anticipate that during our lifetime, we'll see these products pulled from the market. So aspartame, NutraSweet, this is in all your diet products, like your diet sodas, Diet Coke. It's in gum. It's really hard to find gum that does not have aspartame in it. Okay, so sugar alternatives, what are some of the things? And I think you were thinking of this one, stevia, which is an herb. And then we've got agave nectar. Does anybody use agave nectar here? Yeah, that's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I mean, it still has a fructose glucose mix, but it's from a cactus. It's from the agave plant, you know, like tequila, which we all know tequila's good, right? So, but anyway, this stuff is like a thin honey, and it's very sweet and very yummy. Okay, so I'm going to go on to refined flour. So really, I can make a whole weekend seminar out of this, but I had to pick the things that are just ubiquitous in our food source right now, and refined flour is one of them. So what is this stuff? Okay, well, this is a wheat kernel. And as you can see, it's loaded with like great stuff. The outside of it is bran. It's got vitamin B, and it's got vitamin E, and it's got all these different nutrients, right? All these different minerals and vitamins. And in the refining process, they strip all that out. In the enriching process, what they do is they spray back on 4 of the nutrients. That's it. In our intestines, and this is where we absorb food, okay? Not in our stomach. Our stomach just kind of tears the food apart. It gets it into little molecular bits so our intestines can absorb what it needs to absorb from it. There's these things called villi, and they're like little fingers that push the material through. And on the top of them are like little microvilli. They're like little hairs. And everything has to work and push things through, and it absorbs the nutrients from the food. Well, you've seen white flour, right? Everybody's seen white flour. You know how fine that is? When it hits your intestine, it puts a big paste over everything. You know, you guys have heard fibers, you gotta have the fiber, gotta have the fiber. What's up with fiber? Well, let me just tell you, with fiber, there's 2 types. There's soluble and insoluble. The type that's on the outside of the wheat kernel is insoluble. What that does is that when it hits your intestines, because our body doesn't really break it down, it acts like a big Brillo pad. And it like cleans off all that stuff off the villi and keeps things moving through. That's why your higher quality laxatives are brand-based. Now the insoluble fiber, that also has a really interesting role in our body. It actually binds to cholesterol and carries cholesterol out of the body. That's our natural way of ridding ourselves of cholesterol. Because folks, we weren't born with a shortage of Lipitor, okay? Right? Despite what the commercials would have you believe. Okay, so I'm going to go on to trans fats now, my fat monkey picture. So I put this slide up there just to remind me of this really interesting study. This was actually done at a medical university, Wake Forest Medical University, 2007. And I love this study because it was an unintended consequence. So they took a group of monkeys, and they fed them whatever the amount of calories is normal for a monkey diet, say 500 calories a day. And they split them into 2 groups. And one group got like regular monkey kibble, and the other group got a diet, 500 calories, that was very high in trans fats. And what they were trying to establish was, what's the plaque buildup? How does the cholesterol increase? And what they saw was, even though these two sets of monkeys had the exact same amount of calories, that was your trans fat group. They grew this big ring of fat around their bellies. And the debate of whether trans fat adds to weight gain was solved very quickly. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you some really simple and easy things to do that are really very proven weight loss measures. Just small changes, small little changes, guys, not big things. Write down everything you eat in a day. Writing down everything you eat in a day, you're going to eat less. It makes you very conscious about what you're putting in your mouth. Eating high volume, low density foods. What does that mean? Okay, so let's just say I have 100 calories of grapes and 100 calories of raisins. Which one do you think is going to keep me full longer?
Grapes.
The grapes. Pure physics. It takes up more room. It takes up more room in the stomach. Join a support group like Weight Watchers. I don't work for them, but I'm a big fan of them. Cutting 100 calories a day can equal up to 5 pounds in a month. And 100 calories a day is nothing. It's a slice of bread. So just that little change in your diet can really add up over time. Oh, this is my favorite trick. And that's just drinking a big glass of water before you have a meal. And once again, it's the volume concept. It just takes up room in your stomach. And you feel satiated. You feel like you've eaten enough way before you would have without putting that water in your stomach. What fits your busy schedule? Exercising 1 hour a day or being dead 24 hours a day? I love that cartoon. Okay, I'm not talking about making a big commitment to the gym, but just even taking a 30-minute walk after your lunch can really make some significant impact on your health. What does it do for your heart? Well, your heart is nothing but a big muscle. If you looked at a heart, if you've ever seen heart tissue, it's like bicep tissue. It's a big muscle. And what happens when we exercise muscle? It grows, it becomes more efficient, it becomes easier, right? People always ask me, what kind of exercise should I do? And I always say, what are you going to enjoy? I know not everybody's built for the gym. I mean, I love to go to the gym. That's my thing. Wow, if I've got an extra 45 minutes, I'm there. But not everybody's like that. So you've got to find what it is. You might enjoy walking. You might enjoy taking dance lessons. Whatever it is, it's not a chore to you that feels like recreation. That's the right exercise for you. That's a challenge I put out there to you guys today. Find something that you like to do and get your body moving. Okay, so I'm going to talk just very briefly about chiropractic health care. Of course, because I'm a chiropractor. The pain starts in my husband's lower back, then it travels up his spine to his neck, then it comes out his mouth into my ears, and that's why I have these headaches. I think I've actually heard that a few times from people. Okay, do you guys believe me if I tell you that your back ages? Does anybody not believe me on that one? Okay, it does, right? Our back ages just like any other body part, just like our face or our muscles. And the way it ages is that every vertebrae in the body should move freely and independently. That's why we can do all these different motions, all these complex motions. As we start getting older, those joints start to lose their mobility, start to become a lot less flexible. That's why we go from moving really well in our 20s to not moving so well later on in life, unless you fight that process. Usually when your joints are not moving correctly, you're experiencing pain. And there's a physiological reason for that. It's the neck pain, it's tension across the back of the shoulders, it's pain in the lower back, especially if you've been sitting for a while and you go to stand up. That's because those vertebrae are not moving correctly. So what's the alternative? You can see someone like me, you can see a chiropractor and have it fixed and maintain the fluidity and motion in your joints, or you can take a bunch of pain pills, because that's what's going to happen if you go to an MD. And I'm not anti-MD at all. I get a ton of referrals from MDs, and I refer out to MDs if there's something not within my scope of practice. But really, the standardized treatment for back pain, if you go to see an MD, is 800 milligrams of Motrin and bed rest. And my friends, that is like being in your car with that check engine light comes on the dashboard, and you decide instead of having the engine fixed, you're just going to pull out that light bulb so you don't have to look at it. That's what pain pills are. Okay, they just cut off the signal from the problem area to where that problem area is being registered.